We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing. We are wrestling.
Good morning, church.
Good morning.
And good morning to all the viewers and listeners from across the country and around the world. I've always wanted to say that because I happen to listen to Democracy Now! On Free Speech TV and Pacifica Radio and community radio stations all over.
Yes, sir.
And that's the way they say it. Good morning for all our viewers and listeners from across the country and around the world. Well, that is where we are, church. We're in this position where folks are listening and seeing us and wanting us to speak to their needs.
Yes, sir.
And so when I was given this opportunity, I said to myself, I know exactly what the sermon title was going to be. Surely not. Now, surely not is a response to something that causes disbelief. Surely not. Someone broke into the Capitol, not just someone, but hordes broke into the Capitol? Surely not. People who say, I'm not going to be vaccinated because the Lord told me I have everything I need. Surely not. Church, all around us, people are doing crazy things. Now, if we don't discuss that in church, where are we going to talk about it? Indeed. We need to talk about what's going on right now in this country and around the world. We cannot sit by and say, surely not, as if it doesn't affect us. Church, we are in it, and we need to do something about it. So I want to bring us to a place where I think we can do something, but before we do, there may be some Rip Van Winkles out there, and so we need to go over what has been going on. Now, the latest thing, of course, is marking the anniversary of the January 6th assault on our Capitol. And you cannot say you missed that. Now, you got to know it happened. Church, it happened right before us. We were watching it on TV. We were listening to it. And yeah, I'm sure we were saying surely not. But church, it did happen. Now, we know all the responses to that. We know that the investigation is going on right now in the House. The Select Committee is calling people. And, of course, we have people saying, I'm not going to testify because it wasn't all that bad. It was a picnic. Somebody said that. Somebody said that who represents a state in this country said, oh, it wasn't that bad. It was just some people gathered and, it's over. Forget about it. Let's move on. Church, we cannot forget. You cannot forget something like this. Never. Amen. That's what I'm saying. Talk back to me, church. It's all right. Because we're in a conversation right now. We're in a conversation because we're getting down to what can we do. The first thing, church, is let's tell it like it is. Now, some people say, well, they were unsuccessful, so don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. But all the people that I hear that I really respect, including my favorite Republican, David Brooks, columnist for the New York Times. He's my favorite Republican because he's sane, right? He is sane. Amen? All right. And so David Brooks said, the thing about attempted coups is that, yeah, it was unsuccessful, but now they're taking notes on how they should have done it and what we will do next time. So, church, don't think that these rabid individualists, because they're not of this country, they're individualists, will give up and say, okay, we won't go back again. No, it will be a next time. It will be. Now, I'm not a prophet, but I'm telling you what history says. History tells us that people who have a mind that says, I will destroy, will not be satisfied with just a failed attempt. It will be coming back. So we need to know, what can we do to prevent it? Now, all of the experts are giving us those kinds of ways to do that. But church, there's a place I want to go. I want to go with us to understand we're not calling out names and saying you're bad and you're good. What we're talking about right now is manipulation. There are those who manipulate, and then there are the manipulated. The manipulated is who I'm concerned about. Because the ones who manipulate, they're never going to stop manipulating. That's all they know. They think that they're the ones that are dangling the strings. We're all puppets. And they say, oh, look at me. I'm making this happen, and I'm making this happen. You hear words like, I run this country. I have never heard a president ever say that, but I heard it when number 45 was in there. I run this country, as if this is some kind of grocery store, right? Church, the manipulated want to believe that something good comes from people who say, we're the strong folk. We're the ones that make things happen. And so the manipulated say, okay, I'll do what you say because I want to be safe. Why do you want to be safe? Because there is fear. So let's start right there. Fear. Why is there fear? There is fear because there is not a reason to believe otherwise. Now, Franklin D. Roosevelt said the only thing to fear is fear itself, because he understood that fear will take you out. You will be immobile because you're afraid. And so, yeah, you'll bend to the wishes of the manipulator if that manipulator assures you you will not be afraid because I run this thing. No, church, we cannot let this happen. We cannot leave that alone. And you say, well, but Reverend Gerald, that was a year ago, and we're moved on now. No, we haven't. We have a representative, a state representative in this area from Broken Arrow. His name is Nathan Dom. There's another way I pronounce his last name, but his mama named him, and so I'm not going to disrespect his mama and daddy. But him, the one they call Nathan Dom, said he is pre-filing a bill. That means that when the legislature comes into session, it's going to be right there ready to take up. He pre-filed a bill that said, anyone who was involved in that insurrection, who has been told to appear in court in Washington, D.C., and that person has to travel through the state of Oklahoma, this bill says you cannot take that person through the state of Oklahoma. You can't come, I guess, well, they'd be stopping everybody? But no, the person says, well, if we're going to get to Washington, D.C. and we're driving, I have to go through Oklahoma. And Oklahoma said, I don't have to go through Oklahoma, so I guess I'll go back home. Is that what he's thinking? No, he's doing that, church, because he's manipulating. He's a manipulator. He wants to be able to say to all who would listen, look at me. I'm on the side that says strength will prevail against all these other people. I'm strong. I can put a bill like that in there. You know, that to me is more than just sad. That is an indication, church, of who we're dealing with. People who say, if I can get my name out there and get some person who is afraid to believe that I will stand up for them, maybe they'll vote for me when I run for higher office. Now we understand. Manipulators, right? So that's just one example. Church, do we have to talk about vaccines again? Why in the world would you not want to have a vaccine if you know it's going to be safe? And I know, church, there are people close to me, very close to me, who say, I'm not getting the vaccine, Reverend Gerald. And of course, I take a deep breath and I say, tell me why. And they say, because the big companies are getting all this money. They're making billions of dollars. And I say, and? Okay, what else? Well, they're making all this money, and all this is about making money. But we have science that says the vaccine saves lives. Now, they're making money has another story. We can do something about that. We can raise that issue about, are you sharing that vaccine with the rest of the world? Are you taking a little bit of your profit away so that others may be vaccinated? Now, we can talk about that, but that doesn't have anything to do with why are you not doing this? Well, because conspiracy, there we go, conspiracy. There we go. You're afraid. That's why you're not doing it. Now, I know some other folks who are close to me who say, Reverend Gerald, I don't believe the government is telling the truth about this vaccine. Well, if you don't believe the government said it, just look at the world. Look at the world and see what the world is doing. See how people are dying from this. That's not good enough to say, I don't believe just because the government, you don't believe in this government. Just look at the world, other governments. Look. So I'm saying to you, if you don't want to have a vaccine, and maybe you had a wrestling match with God last night, and you said, okay, God is saying, believe in me and don't do anything. Okay, that's your belief. Okay. At least wear a mask, because a mask is an act of love. That's saying that if I have it, I don't want you to have it, right? It's an act of love. At least wear a mask. Is there anything wrong with that? Okay, conspiracy. Okay, you'll be wearing a mask. It's the mark of the beast. I am so sick of these fools. This has nothing to do with any of that. This is about life and death. But manipulated people believe that they have to have strength from someone else, not from within. They let that beautiful thing called brain go away. And so you start looking toward others. So yes, I want to talk about those hard questions. And these are people in our families. We know that. These are people in our families, people we love, who are saying that they're afraid. And so because they're afraid, they're not going to do anything and just wish upon a star, that nothing will happen to them. Meanwhile, we're the ones who are out there feeling the breath of someone who has not been vaccinated. Now, I'm serious about this. And if you ask me, have you been vaccinated, Reverend? And boosted. Yes. Vaccinated, boosted, and I got my M95, right? Right here. Right? Because I got good sense, church. My parents told me early in life, son, you got a brain. You need to use that brain because this world out here doesn't think you're worth that. Which brings us to the other part of what we need to do, which is to go back and understand, go back and find out, go back and get history, church. History. History will give us answers. A very good friend of mine who also was a college professor of mine when I was at the University of Tulsa, who is a member of this church, Dr. Davis Joyce, a wonderful human being I love very much. And I preached here a couple of years ago, maybe last year, I forget now. But he called me and he said, I appreciated the sermon, but let me tell you something. I'm a historian and it doesn't look good in the future because of history, because people repeat themselves. They don't learn, they repeat. And if the history is based on lies, the lies keep getting expanded. So Dr. Joyce gave me something to think about. And I said, that must be something that we address, church, history. So that brings me to one of the things we can do. I facilitate a book discussion group called All Souls Reads. And that book discussion group deals with the real, not the make-believe. We read nonfiction, and if we do read fiction, it's historical fiction, so that we're always looking at reasons why. One of the books that we're reading, as a matter of fact, we're discussing it today. It's called The Condemnation of Blackness, subtitled Race, Crime, and the Making of Modern Urban America. It is written by Khalil Gibran Muhammad, a professor at Harvard, formerly the director of the Schoenberg Center for Research and Black Life in Harlem. Khalil Gibran Muhammad does a scholarly work, church, looking at history of how did crime and Black people get interconnected. How in the world do we have overwhelming percentages of Black people and people of color in prison? Are we that bad? Are we that dangerous? What is going on? Khalil Gibran Muhammad does the research and shows how it came about that Black people are saddled with that mantle of criminal. What is this about? It's not alone. Why? We read the book Color of Law by Richard Rothstein, subtitled How the U.S. Government Segregated the United States. This is all history, church. FHA loans came about after World War II, but Black people could not qualify. They redlined districts so that houses could not be purchased there. We understand how things happen now because it's there. It's in the book. And like I always say, you shouldn't have taught me how to read. Because now I know I can read the books, I can look at the history, and I can see what happened, church. And what happened was those who manipulated said, we're going to set apart those people of tawny hue and make those people the scapegoats. Now, if you read this book that we're going to discuss today, you know how that happened. It happened really slyly. It happened with corrupt police officers. It happened with structural inequities in the city government. It happened with people being afraid, because the bottom line to all of this is if we are not together, you never get the rest of the story. You don't know. So you start inventing and saying, well, Black people are just thieves. And so the Pew Research Center a couple of years ago asked white people, what do you think of when we say Black people? And the three top, poor, dangerous, and lazy. Those are stereotypes in the United States of America, stereotypes that are based upon inaccurate and false pretenses. And so we're fighting over and over and over to get people to understand if we come together, you'll get it. You'll see, but they don't want us to come together. The manipulators say no. Be afraid. They're dangerous. Be afraid. They won't complete anything. They're lazy. Be afraid. They're poor. No, they're not. No, we're not. But you don't know that if you don't come see. So here we are. We're in a place where we have the opportunity to read the history. We discuss these books, and these books are great books. We read books that the Unitarian Universalists Association want us to read. They have this called the Common Read, and every year they come up with one book. We do 9 books, and maybe that's too many for some folk, reading a book a month, right? That may be too much. But the UUA said, we're going to have a common read. We're going to read one book, and we have that book every year. We have that as part of our 9. So we're not doing stuff out of Gerald Davis's brain. He's just picking books, although many of them are that way, but also what the UUA has recommended. So I say, once again, read, church. Don't settle for the okie doke. Don't settle for someone telling you this is what it is. We have to read. W.B. Du Bois, yes, wrote in the late 1800s, 1898, as a matter of fact, did an exhaustive research on black people in the North, and he titled his work, The Philadelphia Negro. It was for all northern cities, really, but he focused on Philadelphia. And he talked about what was going on in there. Wonderful book because he did the research, years of research, talking to thousands of people, getting all the information. And what happened? It sat on the shelf. Those who would be the arbiters of what will happen in these cities didn't look at the Philadelphia Negro, didn't look at that book. Yes, I'm crying because I'm feeling it. Because that's what happens when books are put on the shelf and they're not read. You just go with what you think, and you go with the stereotypes because you don't investigate. And that's the problem, church. That's what the problem is in the United States of America. We're manipulated to not do our own research, to not do our own, to go where you say you're not supposed to go. Go there anyway. Nothing's going to happen to you. People are going to say, what you doing here? I'm here to learn. Well, come on, let me show you. This is what it means to be a part of one another. And that's how we're going to get out of this mess, because we will do exactly what folks don't want us to do. We're not going to be afraid. We are going to embrace. We are going to speak the truth based upon the history, and we're going to tell it. And we're not going to be afraid that our legislature and other legislatures across the country don't want us to do that, so they come up with this stupid critical race theory mess that says you can't teach that in the schools because our babies will feel discouraged, uncomfortable. No, we need to wrestle. We need to wrestle. We need to say, Mommy and Daddy, why did they teach us all this crap that's not true? So that Mommy and Daddy can say they were trying to manipulate you, son or daughter. That's why we have to read, church. We have to read. Reading is fundamental. It is. We must read. We must get the history. Indigenous peoples' history of the United States, written by Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz, told the truth about Native Americans in this country. Native Americans had a constitution. They were grouped and had a constitution. They had to organize. Native Americans took care of the forest for thousands of years, took care of this place, thousands of years. We can't say, oh, well, they're dumb, quote unquote. Are you serious? How are you going to live thousands of years maintaining a place and you call yourself critical, and you would say that person's dumb? That's just dumb. You can't do that, church. You can't do that. So we read. And reading will make you do some effort. Because once you read, you can't keep it quiet. You're no longer manipulated. Now you know. And so you're going to talk about it and make some waves. But you don't want to go back over the same old ways that have been done before, where we come up with a villain and we point out that villain and we say bad things about the villain. It's not enough to do that. we must deal with the structural inequities, church. And that's when we come into what we call restorative justice. Yeah, restorative justice. I was listening to a story, a professor, Floretta Ross, I believe her name is Floretta Reed, but I think of Floretta Reed. I believe her name is Floretta Ross. She teaches at Smith College. And before she taught at Smith College, she ran a rape crisis center. She dealt with women who had been raped. And she got a letter. She said that letter said, I am a rapist. I am incarcerated at Lorton Penitentiary, right outside of Washington, D.C. I raped women on the outside, and I'm raping men on the inside. I don't want to rape anymore. Would you help me? And she looked at that letter, and she threw it down. She said, I'm not helping a predator. But she didn't throw the letter away. She just put it on the desk. But she kept looking at it. She said, this guy is asking for help. So she went to Lorton Penitentiary. She went down and she found this man. And she found that this man had started a group of men who were rapists. And she worked with these people. She said, wait a minute, I'm learning something here. This man has been manipulated because obviously in his life there was trauma. He had been victimized. He had been raped. Over and over again, we find this in histories, church, of why people do what they do, because it's been done to them. Hurting people hurt other people. So restorative justice says, don't stop with blaming. But we need to take that person and hold that person close, because they're still a human being, church. They're still part of us, church. And restorative justice says we're going to work with them to better themselves, to see that start seeing themselves better than who they've been, where they have been. That's restorative justice. We begin to move toward reclaiming that person, not throwing them away, locking them up, but reclaiming them and saying, yes, you can do it this way. I'm about to end because I know I'm getting close. I'm about to end, but I want you all to hear something right now. Restorative justice is not new. You see, in indigenous places all over the world, people didn't just throw folks out. They said you have to admit what you did, and then you have to work toward making that other person see you as a better person, as part of who you are. And see, church, in Africa, that's called Ubuntu. You can say it, Ubuntu. Ubuntu. And Ubuntu says, I am because we are. That's restorative justice. That's saying I can't be all I can be until we are all we can be. Ubuntu says that restorative justice will get us out of this. We're not manipulated. It's not a strong man and the rest of us are weak. But we're all in this together, church, and that's why I love Unitarian Universalism. Because we say that over and over again. I am because we are. I am because we are. So, church, I'm about to sit down, but I don't want you to leave this sanctuary without understanding we have a role to play.
Right.
Back in the day, we used to say, do it to it. And when you say do it to it, that means that I'm ready and I'm going to do it. I know what I need to do. I need to be better. I need to wrestle with that spirit that says, yes, you can. Right. Ubuntu says, I am because we are. So I want all of us to understand that you're not speaking a foreign language when you say Ubuntu, church. You're saying, I am a Unitarian Universalist. And that's Ubuntu. Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
I am because we are.
I need your help. All right. Gonna keep on moving forward. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep on moving forward.
Yeah.
Keep on moving forward. never turning back. I'm really going to need your help, David. Never turning back. What else is it? Going to love boldly? I'm going to keep on loving boldly.
Sing it, Rick.
Keep on loving boldly.
That's beautiful.
Keep on loving boldly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Thank you for that. Thank you. That's what we're all waiting for, David. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. I'm gonna keep on moving proudly. Thank you. Moving proudly. Keep on moving proudly. You can clap your hands with it. Keep on moving proudly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back.